It is 2011. I am poor. I have access to little. I turn on my television set. It is only the terrestrial channels. It is England. There are 50+ channels. I consult the programming guide. Less than 10 of the options have variety programming on a range of topics at high production and curation. I select the choice out of these 10 that I think might be most inspiring and interesting. It is a documentary by the scientist Brian Cox. He is presenting ideas of elementary physics. The production and editing of the program is exceptional. The photography in stills. The explanation is clear and presented in accessible metaphors. He is explaining the arrow of time. I know from the adjacent science fiction that this process he is explaining is the reason why the universe will, to all human intents and purposes, eventually die. The documentary is good. The music is uplifting and powerful. I feel compelled, though I don't know to what. I now have some comprehension of what defines the direction of the arrow of time. It is explained in a way which does not test its limits and appears unavoidable. The process seems simple, almost too simple. It is unthinking, all-consuming, anathema to order. My feeling, once the show is complete, is bittersweet. I am presented with the enormity of existence. I am expected to behold the spectacle of the process itself. The cadence of glorious music has me energized, but the release of energy seems the only way to make peace with the facts presented. The process is the process. It's majestic for being the existence of majesty, but it also implicates me. It implicates my tomorrow and every day thereafter. I have to sleep soon, and tomorrow I will wake and turn to a new day's work. This feels different to how I remember other shows. I recollect Nimoy, Sagan, Kenneth Clark, Bernofsky, but this time I don't feel good. The universe is against me. There is a well-known argument that it's unlikely or unreasonable to assume that the universe is for us. We find ourselves to be here, and spontaneously and intricately. If one discovers a mechanical clock, one assumes the clockmaker. Or if none so exists or can be found, then one might expect to look around and see a clock factory, an environment which is pre-configured singularly in the favor of the appearance of clocks. But we are the clock. To happen upon oneself is not a profound event. Of course we would be the first and best individuals to discover that we are in the habit of being. We can then not make the same assumptions of our creation or our environment. This is a popular atheistic counterpoint made to the theistic clockmaker's position. The extrapolation is that our existence, whilst a significant human event, is nonetheless not a universally significant event. To try to conclude otherwise would be to position ourselves as central to existence. That would be the very definition of egocentrism, or at the very least, anthrocentric. Some go further than this, to suppose that it is unlikely, or at the least not guaranteed, that the universe is predisposed beneficially towards the existence of life. Any design in our favor implies design. Moving in the opposite direction, towards a universe that is actively hostile to life, carries a similar weight. A universe which would contain some physical force, say a special kind of asteroid that seeks out life in order to destroy it, would be to pose a kind of universe which appears to have life as central to its design, and therefore, again, imply design. In this case, rather than being kind to life, the universe would be cruel, though the metaphysical implications are the same. We could reasonably expect then to encounter no such physical force or law of nature specifically targeting us. The intent is to expose the nature of an apathetic universe. That we happened within it, and that is that. No intentions, no designs, only happenstance. Bear in mind that in this there is no guarantee of conditions. The universe still might find itself to be favorable or disfavorable an environment to life, but again, this aspect is most likely to be coincidental, emergent, and not specific. There is no bullet with our name on it waiting out there, that we may find ourselves caught in a hail of unnamed bullets. Entropy is not designed with us in mind. It simply is, and it is ours to deal with the consequences. Supposing we were to reverse entropy somehow, we wouldn't expect the hand of God to arrive and undo our work. The likelihood is we merely find ourselves along the spline of a gorgeous, unfeeling manifold of forces, and this implies very little to our ends within it. We might die, we might become God. It makes no difference to an uncaring universe. There are only the limits of our actions across that manifold to tell us what we cannot do. The universe tells us, no moving faster across space than the speed of light, and we conspire to warp the proportions of space so that we don't have to in order to cross vast distances in tractable periods of time. Or we conquer mortality and erase time from the equation altogether. And as we have heard of the speed of light, so too of heat death we hear, the conservation of energy we hear, death and taxes we hear. Could a great filter exist that is both impersonal and inescapable? The seeming furthest of boundaries we might stand at least some minor chance one day of hurdling. For all we know, our actions could reach very far indeed. And who needs to be the center of the universe when you are the universe? The inexorable forces of all of nature converged in order to create you. You, your poverty, your small-sized television and its meager offering, the stochastic accumulation of every cosmic wind and every choice ever made, demanding existence as you know it. In 4 billion years, twice the lifespan of all Earth life, your energies will be intermingling with the events of the Andromeda Galaxy. Your actions, no matter how meager, stand to, at the very least, determine the initial spin of interstellar eddies and pools, later on becoming the orbits of new life-harboring planets. Your impact in this universe is truly intergalactic. Your effect in your life is guaranteed, cosmic at least, and stands to be humanist at most. And even were it to form only the smallest part of present universal state, doesn't make your presence ignorable, at least as far as the universe is concerned. As a point in the panoply of causality, you are inextricable regardless of size. If all is so procedural as to render everything that has ever or will ever happen predetermined by initial conditions, then every single point of information is absolutely necessary to every moment. The sum of all actions equals the existence of you. You can no more be removed from ever having been than you can destroy energy. You were inevitable. You are absolutely essential to now and all of future to come. The universe would literally not be the universe without you. And it isn't just us as an event that has significance. The order of events also is consistent. The arrow of time does not reverse, does not create loops, does not retroactively rewrite itself. We think of what we know through the temporal bias in which we live, relative to our own position in time carried along the rail of its ever-moving arrow. We think of ourselves as a being with beginning and end, because of all the points along the rail in which we have to be without one another. We think that as each moment ends and moves to the next, that the previous has been lost. It is as if it no longer exists to us. Yet we know that's not true. Our memories tell us otherwise. Each moment in time is as necessary to the consistent determination of universal state as each element of space. The past does not cease to exist merely because we experienced the present. We can understand then that our presence in reality and our role within the sequence of events are both indelible. For human purposes, this could be meaningful. It is still not universally meaningful, but who needs universal meaning? We are the meaning machines, and within this system where actions are permanent and entangled with the future of all creation, we can create real meaning for ourselves and one another. In Camus' The Myth of Sisyphus, he writes, "Rising, streetcar, 4 hours in the office or the factory, meal, streetcar, 4 hours of work, meal, sleep. And Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, according to the same rhythm. His path is easily followed most of the time. But one day the why arises, and everything begins in that weariness, tinged with amazement. Begins, this is important. Weariness comes at the end of the acts of a mechanical life, but at the same time it inaugurates the impulse of consciousness. It awakens consciousness and provokes what follows. What follows is the gradual return to the chain, or it is the definitive awakening. At the end of the awakening comes in time the consequence, suicide or recovery. In itself, weariness is something sickening about it. Here I must conclude that it is good, for everything begins with consciousness, and nothing is worth anything except through it. There is nothing original about these remarks, but they are obvious. That is enough for a while. Mere anxiety, as Heidegger says, is at the source of everything. With neither nature or annihilation of the internal self to stop us, we can begin. In our state of ephemeral potential, directed towards our first actions into building some semblance, some model of being, we might say as the most immediate question presented is the classic, to be or not to be. Before we ask why we live, we might first ask, live? The only worthwhile idea is that we must, not as a belief, because the idea is predicated by the effort it will take to succeed, but as a presupposition of the only intention worth having, because it is the only intention. All other intentions are anti-intention, and in this we accept and commence with the work ahead. To put it another way, we must be, because only then can we stand a chance of success. Anything else would eventually defeat the opportunity to try. Our role in this endeavor, as the deciders inside this active interface, is to navigate the questions of being. To undo that being denies ourselves that good work. Our minds form the cores of universal vortices of energy potential. Their gravity well sucks in vast libraries of interaction and intention. We are the conversion of electrical and chemical potentials into psychic decisive forces to rival all of the universe's vastest energies. Were we to choose to, we could decide the life cycles of stars and solar systems in timescales too fast for stellar bodies to see. The actions of relatively few, for better or for worse, already have a hand in the fate of our own home planet. Belief in making this choice is not the operant significance. It is the work which follows which is significant. We endeavor to hold on to the immense potential energy which the human mind holds. I will spare the discussion of the far reaches of agency over life for other more dedicated thinkers than myself. Suffice to say that conversations on euthanasia and abortion already take into account the conservation of life's accumulated mental energies and their limits. While we, feet up, osmosing in a sea of UHF radiation and the day's papers, are far from the helplessness of edge cases of moral philosophy. Instead, hopelessness, or the death of personal meaning, is our enemy that weighs upon so many. In a universe suddenly divested of illusions and lights, man feels an alien, a stranger. His exile is without remedy, since he is deprived of the memory of a lost home or the hope of a promised land. This divorce between man and his life, the actor and his setting, is properly the feeling of absurdity. The conflict between reasoned thought and immeasurable magnitude is here the absurd. The intractable problem of thought is the barreling void that forms the atmosphere behind our mental systems, which we are left with when those systems break down. To humanize, reconnect, assimilate, socialize, reaffirm, renew, to continue living, to change. This is our alternative. We did not arrive at this question first and foremost in life. It was not presented to us before alphabets and reading and writing. Rather, it came later. We are already here. It is not life we choose, it is continuing. When someone dies from a life of suffering, frequently we will be in the habit of telling one another to take solace in the fact that at least they are at peace. But the dead do not know peace. The dead do not know anything. Peace is for the living. The dead are the dead. I will never amount to anything. What if I fail? Once a failure, always a failure. You cannot know until you try. I missed the boat. Time is all you have. You must act. I'm not ready. I need to be an expert. I was not made for this. Learning knows no bounds. It's always been done that way. Death and taxes. It was done another way once, before somebody changed that. I cannot keep up with them. They are so much better than me. Ignore them. Concentrate on your own work. Why should I care? Do not, and you are an independent, decisive agent thinking to themselves that it is futile to think. Apathy is suicide. Humans are built for doing. I should be able to push through the pain. I am weak. Work within your reach. Be brave. I am lazy. No such thing. I'm blocked. No such thing. I am unlucky. No such thing. I have no talent. No such thing. I am unworthy. No such thing. I'm not smart. I'm not thin. I'm not pretty. I'm not outgoing. I am not enough. I am not. I cannot. I will not. I have heard it all before. I am no longer listening. I am doing. I will be.
Want some of my fries? Need any help?
No.
I got you! No, you didn't! I got you!
We're not gonna make it, are we? People, I mean.
John, We will make it. We will make it, John. Because we have to. To assume anything else is to accept that we have already lost. Whatever the course, we must steer it. We perceive for the steering. Not because that is our purpose, but because we are free to. Nothing is granted. We have only ours to decide, and decide we are. No fate, but what we make. Thanks so much for checking out the video. This is my first time doing like 90% of the things here, and it was a lot of hard work. Don't forget to do the share, like, subscribe thing. It would help me out now more than ever during these early days. Get me to 100 subs and I can get that good personal URL. That would be pretty amazing. Check out the links in the description for more of my content and ways to support me. Have a wonderful day, hydrate, meditate, take your meds, and check your mobile data. Remember, no matter what, you are normal, and I hope to connect with you again.